Okay, so welcome, Elaine, into the Zoom room for another Art of Letting Go live session. So yeah, let's jump into today's daily quote. It'll lead us nicely into our lesson for today, which is another review lesson 173 we're on to. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen with you. Let's make it a bit bigger. So if you could kick it off by reading that quote from a guy called Leonard Ravenhill, who was a Christian evangelist and author.
Yeah. Smart men walk on the moon, daring men walked on the ocean floor, but wise men walk with God. Yeah.
So he's telling us what all the truly wise men of history did, in contrast this with what other men who believe more in the value of worldly accomplishments and adventure did with their time here. But if you pause and reflect on why you'd want to walk on the moon or the ocean floor rather than focusing on finding God or pure formless awareness of perfect love in your own mind, it becomes obvious that these so-called accomplishments of the ego or your belief in separation are just distractions from the real accomplishment, which is just to discover in your own mind the source of love and allow yourself to be continuously guided by it so you can ultimately leave this world and universe behind permanently when you finally lay your body aside or let it go, which we call death. So it kind of feeds into what we just discussed. You know, all of these accomplishments of the ego, all these activities, the accomplishments that it holds up for us and says, you know, this is worthy of your time and energy and effort. When you compare them to pure formless awareness of perfect love, they evidently become false. Or you know, you could walk on the moon or walk on the ocean floor or do anything else in form, you know. And there's many accomplishments and achievements that the ego holds out, but none of it's going to take you home to that ultimate state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. So in other words, your true task as a human being, your only achievement of any real value is enlightenment. Awakening, or as Yeshua calls it in his course, salvation. All the truly wise men and women of the past have clearly understood this truth, and they've dedicated themselves only to this task and accomplishment. Maybe it took them a while to understand that, but eventually all the great spiritual masters share the same understanding that, you know, this is about God, it's about the truth and nothing but the truth, and they let go of everything else. And they don't distract themselves by pursuing all kinds of external goals that really lead nowhere. I was once in a town before I met you. So I was there for about a month when I started the first Art Learning Go, the Art Learning Go course where Sue and John joined. And there was this road that led out of the town that looked quite promising. It was leading up into the mountains. And so I asked someone, you know, where does that go? And they said, well, actually, it goes nowhere. It looks, you know, great, but they ran out of money when they got up into the mountains, and it just ends up in a dead end. You have to turn around and go back. So it's called the road to nowhere. And I thought, well, that's a good analogy for the ego. It's like, okay, looks like it's promising, it looks like it's taking you somewhere, and then, you know, if you pursue it, you end up at a dead end, and you have to turn around and retrace your steps. And that's really what every path that the ego encourages us to take does. So all of these worldly accomplishments, we start pursuing them. In the end, you have to let go, and you have to retrace your steps. But often that's part of the process. I pursued professional squash. I wanted to be a champion squash player. In the end, I had to let that go and realize it was delusional and it wasn't actually really what I wanted. And that was, part of the awakening. So I'm not saying that, people won't do it and that they shouldn't do it when they're young, but they will at some point realize that it's taking them, nowhere, that
It's true.
whatever they accomplished, whatever they were seeking in that, was already within them. It can add the external accomplishments can add nothing really to them, who they really are. So all the truly wise men and women of the past have understood this truth, and they've dedicated themselves to this task and this accomplishment, the task of awakening or enlightenment. It doesn't mean that they haven't fulfilled their responsibilities to others in this world. Some of them had families, some of them had, worldly responsibilities, but only that they've seen that the purpose of every experience they have in life is to help them get closer to God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love. But what does this mean in practice? And how do I actually live this way? You may be asking yourself now. So, fortunately, as today's workbook lesson states clearly, you walk the path of awakening with the mighty power by your side. Which means that you don't have to know all the answers right now. You just have to be willing to let go of your own ideas about what you should be doing to your life and surrender to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which is your own remembrance of perfect love that can reinterpret the events and circumstances of your life for you and use them for the purpose of awakening yourself and other people to the knowledge of this presence. And how this looks and plays out on the level of form will be different for every teacher of God, depending on their unique talents, abilities, and life circumstances. The Holy Spirit's use of your unique talents, your abilities, your life situation is the unfolding of your higher purpose, or in Course in Miracles terminology, your special function, to discover and to live fully while you're seemingly human. So it's going to play out uniquely and differently for everyone. That's part of specialness and why he calls it your special function. But if it's inspired by the Holy Spirit, it's in alignment with this overall purpose of awakening. And that becomes your unique way, your unique path of working out your awakening. So no one else can tell you what your special function is or what you should do next. So be wary of asking others, even spiritual teachers whose opinion you respect, for specific guidance, because ultimately only the Holy Spirit, which remember is just your own awareness of perfect love or oneness, can guide you truly in all your decisions. And it's an internal compass. The true teachers are like, well, find it yourself. I'll show you the way to go within, to find this guidance yourself, to listen to the Holy Spirit. And that's my job as a teacher. And once I've done that, then you're going to be okay, because you're listening to the true guide. So therefore, a major part of this hero's journey that we all undertake by committing to living your special function on earth is to learn to recognize the voice of the Holy Spirit or remembrance of perfect love and listen only to its guidance about what you should be saying and doing in every situation, because it has the unique ability to reinterpret every situation from a perspective of perfect love or oneness and tell you how you should respond to each situation from this perspective only. So let's take a look at this diagram on the Holy Trinity, just to illustrate that visually. Didn't like that. Don't know why we've done that. Never mind. So we'll go Holy Trinity. So it's really an operating system for your life. The diagram, helps us understand how this triune, the Holy Trinity system works. At the top of the tree is absolute source, truth, heaven, pure formless awareness, perfect love, as we call it, pure loving awareness, which is knowledge, which is revelation. This is spirit. This is reality. There's many names for it. And that's the top of that's absolute reality. There's nothing beyond that. That's God. But the Holy Trinity is very useful because that absolute abstract, perfect reality is so abstract that it's very difficult you can't do anything in it. There's no awareness of form in this. So how do you still continue to live your life if you're just in that abstract reality? And the truth is, when people go into that state of revelation, or samadhi, as they call it in the East, they typically just sit there and they just meditate. They're in this really checked out state. They're not even aware of the world around them at the highest level of this. So someone like Ramana Maharshi spent days, sometimes weeks, in the state, to the point where his disciples would have to tend to his body, just making sure insects weren't kind of eating him alive and brushing off because he was so checked out in samadhi that he's not even present in this world. So realistically, for most of us, that's not a realistic state to spend a lot of time in. If it happens, great, so be it. I've had one or two experiences like this, which didn't last very long. But practically speaking, the course is actually teaching us how to live with the other two aspects of the Holy Trinity guiding us, and that's the true self, or the Christ, or the Son of God. In our language, you call it the extension, or the true self. In Buddhist teaching, they call this the Buddha nature. In other Eastern teachings, they call it the Atman, the soul. It's a sense of a self that knows its source, that is connected to this awareness on the one hand, but it can also perceive the events and circumstances and experiences that happen in time and space. So it has a perceptual function, and its job is to help you to perceive everything correctly. This is what the Course calls true perception, or Christ vision. Or miracles, we call them corrections, forgiveness, or letting go. It's also called in other teachings surrender, acceptance, salvation, that's a Course term, at-one-ment, enlightenment, satori, again, that's a Japanese Zen tradition, rebirth, awakening, healing, transformation. It's all really pointing to the same change of mind. It's a transformational state. It's where you have changed your perception from one state into another. So the ego, being the separate self, perceives all of these people, things, places, events, circumstances, situations, traumas, successes, failures, and all experiences that seem to exist and happen in the physical universe of time and space in a certain way that is based on the idea that you're a separate self. You're an individual person, you have a body, you have a story, you have a timeline. So it's very related to the idea of the timeline. You have your own story on the timeline, and it wants to get you to identify with that character and that story, and perceive everything according to that. And so that's the default perception. That's the default operating system, if you like, in this world. And what Yeshe is proposing is another one. He says, if you can become aware of pure formless awareness of perfect love underlying everything, and you're able to take that oneness and perceive everything from that state of oneness, so you correct your perception of it, then that is the Holy Spirit, that function of correcting perception, transforming your mind based on the understanding of oneness, is the Christ or the true self and the Holy Spirit working together to correct your perception and help you to have the happiest, most peaceful and functional dream that you can. It's still not truth. You're still in the domain of perception, but it's corrected perception. It's healed perception that doesn't engender the ego. That doesn't reinforce the ego. And so that's really what the whole course is about. It's about teaching us how to perceive everything and everyone in this world correctly and change our mind about ourselves in the process. So as we correct our perceptions, our sense of the self, the Christ in us, this true self, gets strengthened. We identify more with that than with our separate self. And so there's a shift from the little self to this higher self or true self that happens when you perceive correctly, when you let go, in other words, or forgive. And we become more and more identified with the true self through this process. And eventually, he says, you become so identified with your source, pure formless awareness of perfect love, as that true self, that God takes the final step. You kind of merge back in. How I interpret that is that you merge this true self or Christ once it's really rooted in that, solidly rooted in that presence and that understanding. Just kind of starts merging back into this awareness. More and more of this awareness arises. You start going more and more into this and letting go of the need even to perceive. And you can just kind of stay more in this state of awareness, which would often mean long periods of meditation, of just resting, being in this pure formless awareness of perfect love and not really being too bothered about doing anything. You could still perceive, you could still engage in the world when you're called on to, but more and more you just, quite comfortable just sitting and being in this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is why one of the names for it is being. It's not a state of doing at the highest level. He's saying, don't worry about this. That'll happen when you're ready. Your job really now is to just keep correcting your perceptions and identifying more and more with the true self by correcting your perceptions. And that process is that one-man process. That is the process of miracles or corrections happening moment by moment, day by day in your life. And so the course is really set at this level. It's designed to take you from being aware of your ego and all the experiences in time and space interpreted through your ego, and to shift that into being more and more aware of your true self and perceiving the world correctly. And so there's a profound change of mind and a shift of perception. And that's why it's called A Course in Miracles and not A Course in Perfect Love, because perfect love is at that level. It's a course in using perfect love, pure formless awareness of perfect love, to change your mind about the world and about yourself. And that's where 95, probably 98% of the teaching happens. He references this sometimes, and really all he says about this step is that God will take the final step when you're ready. So don't worry about it. Just focus on what you have to do now, which is correcting your misperceptions and coming into true perceptions or Christ's vision, and identifying more and more with the true self through that process. Okay, so that's a little recap. We've been through that before, but thought it was useful just to go through that again. Any questions on that, Elaine?
No, that was very clear. Thank you.
So the Holy Spirit is the only guide. This true self, the Christ and the Holy Spirit, the only guide that can help you to live an inspired life in this world while staying connected to the transcendent world or reality all the great spiritual teachers have spoken about, and not allowing the values of this world to dictate your thoughts, words, and actions. It's also the only guide that can help you respond perfectly to any seeming problem or crisis. So it knows exactly what you're capable of doing to heal the underlying problem, which is always a belief in separation by the ego part of your mind. So, yeah, the world is in something of a crisis, and it's been that way for a long time. I remember when I was 16, I think, it was 1989, Time magazine made instead of a person of the year, which they normally do, they made the Earth the kind of planets of the year. And there was this whole, report on the Earth and the state of the Earth and the rapid destruction, pollution of the natural environment. I read it with some shock and horror. I was like, oh, this is terrible. Didn't know this was going on. So it's been going on, for the best part of my life, and it started before that. So,
oh yeah, mine too.
warming, temperatures soaring again in Europe, threat of nuclear war through the escalation of the war in the Ukraine, global pandemics necessitating vaccinations. We just had that. AI, which Elon Musk has said is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization. To name just some of the more prominent recent apparent threats the ego has invented to our health and well-being. And if you looked at all of this, you'd be tempted to just go into despair and go, well, it's just all pointless.
Yes,
and
we've had those moments. Yeah.
tempting to lose hope and think that humanity is inevitably doomed to go the way of the dinosaur in the next century or two. Someone's going to push the wrong button and we're just going to wipe ourselves out. Or if that doesn't do it, we'll cook ourselves through global warming. Or but the crisis into which we've worked ourselves as a species over the last few thousand years is the culmination of a thought system coming to its logical and insane conclusion. It's really a call and an opportunity to break through into a new level of awareness. And as the crisis gets worse, people have to turn elsewhere and say, well, this isn't working, so where else am I going to go? And where they go is within. They go into this inner awareness we call perfect love or oneness, which is the Holy Spirit. Because it surely become obvious to anyone, even a half-open mind, that the ego, just a belief in separation, has miscreated this world, and our seemingly separate identities as human beings with bodies is a complete disaster of a thought system. Surely that becomes obvious the more you look at this world and at what we've created with all of our time and energy and efforts as a species, as a human species, over the last 10, 20,000 years of so-called civilization. Recorded civilization goes back something like 10, 12,000 years. It's not a very long time in the whole span of time. Look at what we've created. Is this a world we want? Is this a happy, kind, loving, nurturing, safe place? Or is it actually just crazy, insane, very threatening, and actually just, as Shakespeare put it, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And I think, the amping up of all this crisis is to teach us that it's just the tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So in other words, we no longer have the luxury of indulging in the ego's thought system for another 1,000 years, because its destructive effects have become so apparent that we must change our collective mind quickly, or we perish as a species. Pretty simple, transform or die. So could you have asked before you chose to be born into this lifetime for a better so-called nudge from the universe to awaken in the crisis we currently face? Actually, it's perfect. It's designed perfectly for your awakening. In the crisis is the opportunity to awaken. Interestingly, in the Chinese, crisis means danger. There's two characters. The one means danger and the other means opportunity. So in every crisis, there's this opportunity for this awakening. And that's really the true meaning of the crisis. So could you ask for a higher purpose for your life in this so-called time of crisis than to become a leader of this awakening by demonstrating it to everyone whose life you touch? As Winston Churchill, he famously found his destiny in another time of crisis when evil threatened to overwhelm the world not too long ago in World War II. observed. You can read that quote, and this is adapted because his original one was just in the masculine. I just
Yeah.
adapted it to be more general, but it's the
Yeah.
same idea.
To every person, there comes in their lifetime that special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered a chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which would have been their finest hour.
Yeah, and obviously speaking from his own experience, because he did have his finest hour, and he stepped up, and he led Britain to victory in World War II against a really dark thought system. The Nazis were just evil, pure evil, and they wanted to take over the world, literally. So what do? You have to resist it. He realized you can't. I think Churchill's insight was that you can't compromise with this. You can't negotiate with this level of insanity. It has to be overcome. So there's no option but to fight. Whereas his less aware predecessor, a guy called Neville Chamberlain, if you know the history,
Oh, yeah.
was pacifist, and he was trying to somehow find a reconciliation with Hitler. So, well, let's negotiate with this guy because he's too strong. We can't face this, mighty war machine that he's built. He's going to conquer us. So it was a bit cowardly, really. It was like, well, we can't win, so let's negotiate. And Churchill's saying, well, you can't negotiate with a maniac. The guy's insane. There's no negotiation, because whatever you agree to, you can't trust him. You agree to that, and you're probably just going to give away, everything that you value. Liberty, freedom, um, traditional British values, and liberal democracy really was what they were fighting for. Based on, if you look at the development of that was based on Christian values. It had just become secular and got entrenched into secular principles, freedom of speech, respect for individual rights, these kinds of things. Well, none of that was going to be honored by the Nazis. They didn't believe in any of that. So I think World War II was an excellent demonstration of the irreconcilable nature of the ego and spirit. You can't reconcile these thought systems. There's going to be a conflict between them, and that conflict played out as the biggest war, World War II, that humanity's ever had. But it was really a fight between the dark and the light. The one war, you might say, that was a just war, because what else were you going to do? It's an interesting question. John and I have considered this. Well, how would you have resolved that peacefully? And I'm not sure there was a way to resolve it peacefully, because you couldn't negotiate with insane maniacs who just wanted to impose their will on everyone and literally take over the world. There's no sort of reasonable other counterparty to negotiate with. It was complete insanity. And so you have to resist it.
You can't reason with the unreasonable. In everyday life, you might have somebody that's acting stupid. You just say impossible. Yeah, you can't reason with the unreasonable.
Yeah, and so this is in our personal lives. Fortunately, we're not facing the same kind of insanity
just many
that they did 80 years ago. It seems to be more normal, which in some ways is dangerous, because we then go, well, it's all kind of normal, and we carry on. But I think COVID was really a wake-up call to say, well, the system we're in isn't really normal. It's quite insane. And this insanity is still there underlying it. It's just maybe not as overt. So with the right awareness, you can recognize that the world is still as mad as it ever was, and then ask for the guidance to play your part in its awakening, and that's your special function as well. So will you step up to the start of your finest hour? That's what Yeshua is calling us to do. Allow only the Holy Spirit or voice for perfect love to guide you. Or will you continue to live in the delusional hope that somehow your sense of being a separate self, i.e. your ego, can guide you out of the mess that it's made?
Impossible.
And most people are still in the second camp, aren't they? Somehow the ego is going to find a way out of the mess, and it's our salvation. And given that the ego is a death wish, that is delusional. The ego wants nothing but death. So left to the ego, it's going to kill everything. It's going to kill the human species. It's going to wipe out life on the planet because that's what it does. What else could a death wish do ultimately? And extract maximum pain and suffering and misery, causes much misery and pain and suffering in the process as possible. So Yeshua has given us the course as the way out of this. You know, it's the answer to the madness. Helen and Bill, you know, were caught up in this madness in their daily lives, in their personal lives in New York City, which is really an epitome of this madness. Just you know, so much activity and craziness, and they were asking for another way. They said, like, surely there must be a better way than this. And because they were sincere, you know, that call was answered in and through this course. And it gives us a workbook, it's daily practice to help us find the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, no matter what seems to be going on in our life. And then a comprehensive theoretical foundation in the text, so that we can understand the metaphysics and we can bring all of the madness to the truth that we start to understand more and more. The more we do that, the more we start to understand. You know, when we start doing forgiveness, we actually don't have a clue. We don't really understand. Unfortunately, saying to us, well, look, I know you don't understand, but just start by practicing. Start practicing these lessons. And as you practice, more and more understanding will come. And you will start down this road guided by the Holy Spirit. And that's how you step up to your finest hour, to starting to listen to the guidance and trust it. And then you can be truly helpful in this world, however that looks for you. You know, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to change the world like Winston Churchill did or like Yeshua did. It just means that you are a loving presence in this world, and your presence is helpful for the at-one-ment. It's helping yourself and others to awaken. And that might be in a very kind of subtle way. It's just, well, it's your friends and your family, and you know, just spreading the love that way. There's nothing you have to do overtly. You know, this stepping up to the start of your finest hour is really the call to surrender spiritually and say, okay, and you know, not my will but thy will. That's the way I interpret it anyway. Other people might say, well, you've got to do something extraordinary, but it's just an inner, you know, surrender to the guidance of the Holy Spirit that he's really talking about there. Okay, so that leads us nicely into today's session. We've discussed any of this. Any thoughts, comments, or questions on any of that? It's really just a recap of a lot of the course's teaching on the world and how we approach it, and things like our special function, the role of the Holy Trinity, which I think needs a bit of clarification. He talks about the Holy Trinity, but not that much. So the idea of the diagram is just to clarify it and say, well, this is really what you're studying. You're studying this operating system for your life. That's very, you know, can be very, very helpful for you in your awakening and just in dealing with life. You know, the idea of this is that in daily life, we're inevitably going to be challenged. And are you going to respond to those challenges negatively and egoically, or are you going to respond to the challenges of the Holy Spirit and kind of flow with it? That's the question. So it's a problem-solving technique. It's actually a very practical way of living your life, because it brings this high-level abstract truth down to the practical daily life situations and helps you to apply it into those. And that's really the genius of the course, is it's a translation of this high level pure formless awareness of perfect love, which isn't really that useful in the world because it's not even aware of the world, into practical perception, true perception that's helpful, that changes your mind and guides you in a sane way. This is the return of sanity into your mind and into your life. It guides you through this insane world and the maze, the matrix of this world in a very calm, peaceful, guided way, and helps you. It's very beneficent. It helps you to deal with the challenges and problems that you inevitably encounter in this world in a much more peaceful, calm way, and blesses you with grace, miracles that happen, like you experienced yesterday, where the bus driver stopped. These things are just signs that you're being guided, that this true self and this presence of perfect love that underlies it is with you and is helping you on your journey. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's jump into today's lesson then. So you read that. So I think read it in sequence. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Let's just start a recording here. Give me a moment. Okay, so this is today's workbook lesson 173, which is another review lesson. So there's a key idea. God is only love, and therefore so am I. So read that in the original and its alternative. And interestingly, we came up with this with Lynn yesterday, because I said, well, instead of God is only love, and therefore so am I, change it to my source. And she said, oh, that makes a difference, definitely. So I think
yeah, I agree.
we'll just say it in the original alternative yourself, and then just contemplate that and see what it does for you.
God is only love, and therefore so am I. Or, my source is only love, and therefore so am I. Yeah, that sounds good. The source,
The second one makes complete logical sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Because the connection between you and God is made very clear as my source. Okay, so God is my source. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. I must be love because my source is love, logically. And so the logic of that becomes irrefutable. The more you repeat it, the more you go, yeah, well, obviously, if my source is love, then so must I be love. That's logical. Because something can't be unlike its source. The ego's delusion is that it can, that you can be unlike your source. That's the delusion. That's the insanity. So it makes it very explicit and very logical. So we're not talking about a thought system that requires mysteries. You've got to have faith in mysteries. It's actually very, very simple, very straightforward, and very logical. If you just break it down and you use language that makes it that logical. The problem with God, as Lynn was saying, is that there's all the misperceptions around God based on traditional religions. In her childhood, she had, she prayed to God for help with her family situation, and it never came. And so she didn't trust God. Said God doesn't listen. But she wasn't praying to the right God. The God that she thought was out there somewhere, some great being in the sky or somewhere outside of her. It doesn't exist. God is within. It's your source. So let's use the language that directs us within. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. And that's just a subtle but a very profound shift in understanding in that translated version, which is why we do the translations, to create those subtle shifts in studying this. Okay, so then the first review lesson, read that in the original alternative.
I will step back and let him lead the way. Or, I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. God is but love, and therefore so am I.
But just let's contemplate that. So I'll step back and let him lead the way, or I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. Again, that's just a little bit. Let him lead the way is referring to God or the Holy Spirit, depending on how you want to interpret that. But I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way is very explicit. Okay, it's a perfect love, a perfect loving awareness that is going to guide me, and that becomes quite doable. Okay, you can ask yourself, with any thought, any guidance that you get, is this perfect love? Is this what perfect love would do? And if it's not, then it's not correct. So it becomes quite practical and doable, which is the purpose of these lessons, to allow you to actually apply this perfect love into your daily life, in the decision, the words, the decisions, the actions that you take, then reflect this loving awareness, and then that guides you and leads the way. Okay, and then my source is only love. God is only love.
Yeah, my source is only love, and therefore so am I. And I walk with God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I walk with God in perfect holiness, or I walk with perfect love in perfect innocence. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Or my source is only love, and therefore so am I.
Yeah, so thoughts on that second one?
Well, it's more, it's just got more punch, it's more up to date.
I walk with perfect love in perfect innocence.
Perfect innocence.
Walk with God in perfect holiness. I think a lot of people go, well, what does that actually mean?
Yes, exactly.
I walk with God. Okay, it sounds good. In perfect holiness. But what does that actually mean in my experience? How does that feel? It sounds, I think the problem with this language is it sounds a bit abstract and undoable, and sometimes a bit pious because of our associations with this traditional Christian language. I mean, imagine someone said to you, "Well, I walk with God in perfect holiness." You go, seriously? That's a bit.
You would question them. Yes.
It's a bit pious. It's a bit like, well, who do you think you are, sort of thing. But I walk with perfect love and perfect innocence. It's like, okay, well, yes, we walk with this perfect loving awareness in a perfectly innocent state through the world, and it points us directly to that state. The words point us into that state of awareness, which is what they're designed to do. So, that's why we do the translations. It's just a more direct, it gives you hopefully a better pointer to the actual experience that the words are designed to bring about, rather than working with words that are a bit wooden. For a lot of people, they're just a bit like, well, it's a bit impenetrable, that language. With God, I walk with God in perfect holiness. Particularly if you have any issues with God and traditional religion, you're going to go, it doesn't really resonate with me at all. Which sadly is why a lot of people get put off the course. They'll read a lesson like that and go, no, this isn't for me.
It's a shame.
It's all a bit high mighty and pious, and well, so this is the task. What I've been inspired to do, my special function, if you like, is to translate this into a language that's more accessible. It makes these teachings more accessible, more practical, more doable for potentially thousands of people, so that the course can come into their life and work its miracles and transform their lives, which is what it's designed to do, and they don't get put off by the language. Because once you understand what he's really saying, it makes complete sense. It just needs a bit of translation from the traditional Christian terminology that he's using. In my humble opinion, some people might disagree, and there are some people who might prefer the original, in which case the original is there in the all of the documents. You can click on there. And it brings up the whole lesson as well as the introduction to it, which tells you how to practice it. But there's always the original and the alternative. So I think the beauty of it is you have both, and in the reading of both, there's a learning that comes. Have you found that?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You do both, and you're like, oh, okay. So now, because I've read the original and I read the alternative, and the alternative gives me a different understanding and perspective, there's a learning that happens in that process. And that's what transformation is all about, a shift from one state to another. And if those kinds of shifts start happening regularly through your study of the course, then you're on track. You're on track to the awakening, and that one-ment is happening. Okay, so I'll step back. I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. So this is really a call to surrender your life to this perfect loving awareness. Say everything is going to be guided by this awareness. And I walk with perfect love and perfect innocence. And so I walk with this loving awareness in perfect innocence. I'm guided. I'm surrendered to this. And my life is no longer my own. I'm no longer in charge of my life. So this is in most all the authentic spiritual teachings, they talk about the surrender to God. You must surrender to God. In fact, Islam, the word Islam means surrender to God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what all the authentic original teachings that understood the truth ask us to do. And he's just reiterating with us, give your life to God. Well, what does that mean? You surrender to this perfect loving awareness within you, and you allow that to guide your thoughts, your words, your decisions, and your actions. That's what it means to live a surrendered life. And that's profoundly transformational. If you do that, everything changes. Every thought, every word, every decision you take, every action is now being guided by this pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's perfect loving awareness, if you want to phrase it that way. And you are done through. You're no longer the separate self trying to figure it all out. You are just done through, and you are guided. And when you're in that state, you're awakened, you're enlightened, and you have a miraculous power in the world, as we've seen with masters like Yeshua and the Buddha. They had enormous power in the world because they were in that awakened state and they'd given their life to God. And then this power comes through them into the world, and it works through them to do its work. And it really all it wants to do is awaken people to its presence and make people aware of it and help them to accept it as as the truth and as their own self. Okay, so simple lessons, but very profound. You actually live this lesson. You live these lessons. I step back, or I let go and allow perfect love to lead me in life, and I walk with this perfect loving awareness and perfect innocence. It's profoundly transformational in your life to live these simple statements. And that's of course what the work is to daily practice and live in this way. Okay, so any other thoughts, comments, or questions on the lesson?
Yeah, just a nice lesson. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, lovely. I quite like the reviews actually, because they're really short and to the point, and they allow you to just contemplate the idea. Just go, okay, well, he's giving you the ideas, and you can just meditate on them, which we'll do now. and just allow your own insights to come, your own understanding and insights to develop around them, which might give you a deeper insight into each lesson. I think the value of doing them together, two at a time, and with the framework or the wrapper of God is only love, and therefore so am I, or my source is only love, and therefore so am I, is that it shows you that it's a holistic system, that all these ideas are connected, they're all part of one coherent thought system, they all make sense, they align with each other, and you start to really understand that this thought system is coherent, it's logical, and it's a complete replacement for your previous egoic thought system. And it's connecting the review lessons, kind of connect the dots, and they help you to accelerate your understanding. All right, so to do that now, shall we do a meditation?
Yeah.
On the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
all right, so this is another workbook review lesson, 173, in which we review lessons 155 and 156. So just making yourself comfortable, sitting in your favorite meditation posture. You can make yourself upright if you're sitting on a chair. Sit with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight. Up your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. And scan your mind. So notice whatever thoughts and emotions are going on there. Particularly anything that feels in any way negative, limiting, contracted, constricting. You breathe into that. Remind yourself of today's key idea that runs through all these review lessons, that my source is only love, and therefore so am I. God is about love, and therefore so am I as the original. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. And breathe in again. Just breathe in this loving awareness, this source of your being. Connect with it. Feel its presence in your mind, in your heart. If it helps you, you can put one hand on your heart center to connect more deeply with its presence. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. And just step back or let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. So I let go of my own ideas about my life, about controlling my life. I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. And you exhale on the truth of that and just have a sense of releasing any negative thoughts and emotions you became aware of, any fear, any anxiety about your life, about the future, about what you need to do, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And just drop all that. Right now, that's what letting go means. Letting go of any concern, any care about anything, and allow perfect love to lead the way. This perfect loving awareness, you're open to it, will guide you. It will help you with all of the practical problems that you perceive in your life to solve them in a different way, in a way that doesn't emphasize the problems, that doesn't reinforce the ego. So this, looked at another way, this course is a practical problem-solving course to help you solve problems in an entirely different way and allow you to live in a miracle-minded state, in a miraculous state. So again, breathing in and just finding yourself with a key idea again, that God is only love, or my source is only love, and therefore so am I. Your source is only love, then it's logical that so are you. Statement is logically consistent, makes complete sense. How can anything be unlike its source? It must be like its source. The idea that you're not like your source is the ego's idea, and that's insane. So you bring any of those ideas to this truth. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. And those false ideas must disappear in the light of this truth. So my source is only love, and therefore so am I. Breathe this loving presence, this loving awareness into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in this loving awareness. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. Feel the power of the presence of it. Love right here, right now. Breathe it into every pore, every cell, Every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the light of that loving awareness. And remind yourself that I walk with God or perfect love and perfect holiness, which is perfect innocence. So I walk with perfect love and perfect innocence. This awareness is with me always and in all ways. It's my own true nature, my own fundamental awareness. So it cannot be anywhere else. It must be with me. God goes with me wherever I go because God is in my mind. It's another way of stating that's earlier lesson, less than 30 of the workbook. Perfect loving awareness goes with me because perfect loving awareness is in my mind. I walk with that perfect loving awareness in this perfectly innocent state. In and through the world. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. Say that to yourself as a statement of fact of who you really are. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. Feel into those words, accept the truth of them, surrender into them. There's nowhere else to go but this loving awareness, this pure formless awareness of perfect love, this perfect loving awareness is within you. And just rest in this perfect loving awareness. for a few moments. There's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, just be in this loving awareness. You are that awareness, completely holy. The mind is healed and whole. You're back in the original loving awareness that you've always been. This is your source. As translated that says, my source is only love, and therefore so am I. So just step back and let this loving awareness lead you more deeply into its awareness. Going deeper and deeper with each breath, just breathing in and out through your nose as you observe the breath. Let the breath take you deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper into this awareness. Have any thoughts arise? Any worldly thoughts? Any thoughts whatsoever? Just remind yourself that God is only love, and therefore so am I. These thoughts have no meaning or purpose. They're not loving, then they simply do not exist. So I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. You just drop the thought, exhale, let it go. Imagine you blowing it out like a dark cloud or black smoke out of your mouth. And you're going deeper, you're sinking inward to the truth. Of the perfect light and love which you are. And just rest in that state of being. Whole, complete, healed. You are this perfect loving awareness. Just stay in that awareness for another few minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back. Into an awareness of the body and the breath, the senses, and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. And noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Again, scan your mind at the top of the inhale. Notice any thoughts, any feelings, any body sensations related to those feelings. And whatever they are, if it's anything untoward, anything out of accord with love, just remind yourself that God is only love. My source is only love, and therefore so am I. And so I just let go of these and allow perfect love to lead the way, to lead me in its ways, to guide my thoughts, my words, my actions. You exhale on the truth of that. Exhaling, just blowing out any of that negativity. Imagine it's like a dark cloud or black smoke just leaving you. It's going, gone. To the nothingness that it really is. So notice the weight of your body now. Sitting down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling. Your hands and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, the smell in your nose. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing, the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things in this very still, calm, surrendered state of mind that you've let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. And you walk with this perfect love, this perfect loving awareness in perfect innocence. Feel that in your heart. Feel that infusing every pore, every cell of your muscle with its beneficent, life-giving presence. Breathe that in as you breathe in. Maybe smell the air around you. Notice a subtle taste in your mouth. Notice what you're hearing. Just to bring yourself back into an awareness of all your senses. But at the same time, you're going to stay connected to this deeper presence that hopefully you've connected with fairly deeply over the last 20 odd minutes. To help you do that, practice today's lesson frequently through the day. I sure recommends every hour you just top yourself up with this presence and remind yourself of the lessons and the key idea. God is my source is only love, and therefore so am I, and I step back or let go and allow perfect love to lead the way. So I walk with perfect love and perfect innocence. 3 key ideas. Only needs to take a minute to remind yourself of them. You need some help. practicing, then listen to the breath break I've sent you, which is a few minutes to guide you through practicing the lessons. So as I said, so it'll help you stay connected to this perfect loving presence or awareness for the rest of the day. Let it guide all your thoughts, words, and actions, and remain surrendered to this loving awareness. So it leads the way and you walk with it. So it is said and so it is done. And now, on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a moment to look around. Just observing various objects in the room around you. In a state of loving awareness. Doesn't matter what you look at, notice that it's already the same. The underlying awareness is the same. Close your eyes, notice that awareness is still there. Open your eyes, look at something else. Notice this loving awareness. Still very much there. Always there, guiding you. Won't ever be outside that awareness. That awareness can never not be there. This is the teaching, because it's your own fundamental awareness, without which you would have no life at all. It's just becoming aware of that obvious state and living in it. That's why we practice. So I wish you good practicing. Practice this through the day using the short breath break I've given you, and there's a longer meditation you can listen to this evening to keep you in this loving awareness and guided by perfect love leading your way. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and of the session. Well, there's some text to do, but we don't have time to do that if you've got to go at 12, so let's leave it there. And I'll send you the recording of the text. Okay, so thanks, Elaine.
Yeah,
good
thank
session.
you. Yeah.
Done by 12 o'clock. It's unusual, but hopefully it sets you up for
Yes, it
a
has.
very loving, flowing
Suitably
day.
relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah, relaxed and just try and stay in that flow. So wherever you go,
There I am.
just allow that this deeper awareness to guide you. And if you find yourself going out of it, then use the lesson to top you up.
I will do, yeah. Yeah.
Perfect loving, God is with me. God is only love, and my source is only love, and therefore so am I. That idea alone can correct it. I like these lessons today. I let go and allow perfect love to lead the way, and I walk with this perfect loving awareness in perfect innocence can help you to connect with this state and stay in this, what you call holy state of flow, really, throughout the day. So that's my wish for you. And
you too.
yeah, I'll see you on might actually be able to run a session on Sunday, so I'll let you know.
Okay, that's good.
Otherwise Monday.
Yeah. Go with the flow. Yeah. Okay. Have a nice
Okay.
weekend. And
Have a
thank
good
you very
weekend.
much.
Yeah, you too. All right.
Okay, namaste.
Namaste. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's a wrap for today. Thank you to Elaine for joining. If you watched the live stream or the recording and you were inspired, then there's a couple of things you can do to go a bit deeper into this. You can subscribe to the channel to be notified whenever I go live, which is typically 3 or 4 times a week. You can also go to lifepool.com and there you can sign up to receive a daily Telegram message, which has the daily quote that I shared, the blog post, the lesson in its original alternative form, a short mini meditation or breath break to help you practice the lesson, and also be notified when I go live. So get a link to join us in Zoom for that the live sessions, which you can do for the first 3 weeks at no charge. So check it all out at lifepool.com, sign up to take the next step. And I hope to see you on the inside in one of these sessions soon. Thanks for watching or listening. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now. Namaste, which means the true self, the true loving self, which knows that it is love, loving awareness in me, acknowledges and honors that same true loving self in you. Wishing you much love.